All right, people. Careers in Code. It's Sunday. It's 5 o'clock. Sunday, March 17th, 2019. Beautiful. Um, my name is Jeff Passetti. I'm the instructor for Module 1 and Module 2. And we've just started this past week building HTML and CSS and getting off the ground. And I gave everyone a big homework assignment to do a design to do this design. Let me just zoom out and show you full screen mode. Um, Now it was ambitious. It's a little bit of a challenge. We didn't get very deep into CSS, so I'm not expecting everyone to do this perfectly. Not pixel perfect, that is. But taking what we did learn last week, I'm expecting you to be able to build just the very, very basics of this. And maybe through watching me in the next 30 minutes build this up from scratch, you'll further understand how to see through a design like this and start to really examine the structure behind it all. And so often when I learn through building things that exist, popping up in source code on really nice websites. I talked about that a little bit last class. And just seeing how websites are built, really cool websites that are. And one great example is just popping up the source code to bestbuy.com. Now, for this example, don't do that, but this is eventually when you work for an agency, a designer will often hand you a design like this, and you often have a content editor to fill in content, but they'll often just give you a prototype like this. I want you to start seeing through this design and start seeing the structure, start seeing these blocks on the next page of the PDF. Now, I didn't label all the blocks, but I do want you to start to see regions, whether it's a header region up top or a footer region down below, or some of the regions or the little blocks in the middle. And in this PDF, I've kind of just shown you a wireframe, rough wireframe, where you can kind of fill in the blanks of what goes into each region. And once you do some of these, you realize that it's not too bad. And on the last page of the PDF, I gave you some of the CSS properties for font sizes and colors. Let's start from scratch. Let's start from complete scratch, as in we're going to make a brand new folder inside careers and code. I'm going to do module 1, and I'm going to make a new folder. Shift Command N, and I'm going to just call this Best Buy. Now, what I do is I take that folder and I drag it into the VS Code icon. By dragging it into VS Code, it opens up the File Explorer on the left automatically, and you have access to your Best Buy folder. You have access to making new files, new folders, refreshing, and collapsing buttons. But if you open up just the index or your style sheet or individual files through VS Code, you don't often get that ability to see your entire project. So opening folders is the best way to work in Best Buy. Sorry, and the best way to work in VS Code, that is. So all right, start out. Let me start out here in the Explorer tab. Best Buy folder. I'm going to hover over that and go and click on the new file icon. And I'm going to call this index.html. And it automatically opens it up to the right. I'm going to stay right here and make two new folders. I'm going to make an images folder, and I'm going to make a CSS folder. Make sure your CSS folder does not go into your images folder. Sometimes that can happen. If that does happen, just trash it and redo it, or drag it up out of it. Sometimes the dragging and dropping is not the greatest thing ever. Okay, so blank new file. Before I get any further, I also like to open up that index.html inside the browser. I browse for my Best Buy folder, module 1, Best Buy, double click on index, and this opens up in Chrome by default. Blank white screen, perfect. We haven't really done anything yet, but I'm going to keep that off to the side. And I'm going to constantly jump back and forth between VS Code and Chrome. All right. Back to our notes about basic HTML and CSS. We've been following a W3C about building compliant websites, compliant according to the standards of the W3C. The first set of standards from the W3C is to to have any website, whether it's simple or complex, use at least 4 basic elements, a specific set of 4 basic elements. And the first one is the HTML element that tells the browser and devices that all this stuff that we're about to program in this file is all programmed in HTML. That's obviously common sense. You think the browser would know that automatically because the file is called index.html or something .html. We need 2 sections, the head section and the body section. So right there's a total of 3 elements, and the last element we need is the title element. The title element is important for a few reasons. The first reason why it's important is it labels the browser, labels the tab. So watch what happens when I put in Best Buy and I hit save and refresh the browser. Okay, labels the tab upstairs. Perfect. Also labels the UI, labels the window in your operating system. If I go down to my dock next to my trash bin, here's my minimized window, Best Buy. If I didn't have the title in there, I would just see index.html. And it's also in my history palette. The fact that I've been here, it now shows up with the title. And when you look at all these things, all of my previous pages, they're just lists of title elements that I've been to. So, but the primary reason why it's important is for search engine optimization. The keywords that go inside here, Google considers them very important, very high value. And I was showing you in our last class when we got into the Starbucks menu. We did coffee menu, Syracuse, New York, Starbucks. You can structure your title very deeply to promote local search engine optimization. But for right now, since it's the home page, the landing page, we're just going to use Best Buy. Perfect. All right, so that's 4 basic elements. That's W3C says if you're going to program at the HTML5 standard, which is completely standard as of 2019 here, really as of 2012, you need to include 3 more instructions. That is the doc type declaration. Goes at the very top, and it declares that all this stuff that we're programming is in the HTML5 standard. The second instruction we need to use to make it HTML5 compliant is the language attribute needs to be included in the opening HTML element. That declares that all the content, if I just say here, sample content goes here, that's in English. The title is in English, not the elements, but the content is all in English. Now, usually the browser can do a great job of guessing whether it's in English or not, but sometimes it can get it wrong. It's going to require this attribute to really help it lock into the correct language set. The last thing we need is a meta element. Now, just the word meta means extra information, and this extra information isn't for the end user. It's really for the browser or a search engine. There's many meta elements. We already used a couple last class. For this one, we need the character set to be declared. The character set is Unicode 8-bit, and it's very technical, it's very geeky, computer sciencey, but I like to think of it as this is the way it's being saved on your computer. This is the type of encoding that VS Code is saving this file onto your computer, and then we're eventually going to upload this to a real server, and it's the way that the server stores it and writes it and reads it. It's all in the Unicode 8-bit encoding. That's as technical as I want to get it. If I hit save and refresh right now, nothing really happens. We haven't really done anything visual yet. But that's the first step in doing everything. The next step is to link up a style sheet before you get too far into, and before you get too deep into this project. We're going to use the link element. The link element links to an external document. In this case, we're linking to an external style sheet. You need to declare 2 attributes to make it work correctly, the relationship and the hyperreference. The relationship, you're basically telling the browser, go link to this document, go link to style.css. And the browser's not going to know how to use that by default. It's not going to know what it is until you identify its purpose. Its role, what is it? It is a style sheet. And the browser will eventually be like, oh, that's right, a browser. I knew what that was. Duh. Anyways, hyperreference. Where's the file located? And what is it called? Hey, browser, please go into my CSS subdirectory and grab a file called style.css. Now I don't have style.css yet in my files yet, but it will link there in a few minutes. And by the way, some of you have asked me, do you have to call it style.css? And the answer is no. You could call it anything you want to, as long as it has .css in it, and as long as you actually create that file. But a proper workflow, proper practice by developers is to simply call it what it is. It is style.css or styles or app.css. Just keep it super simple. All right, I'm going to go ahead and create that file. I'm going to go over to the CSS folder, click on it, open it up, and click New File, and call it style.css. And before we get too crazy in this, we're just going to simply change the body, background, can't spell, color, yellow. By the way, you're going to see me make a lot of typos, and I hate making typos. Sometimes they're hard to catch, so I start to learn small shortcuts. Here's a shortcut in VS Code for styling. If you want to do background color, you can just type in BC tab, and it builds you out background-color : and you can just retype yellow. Because background is it's a very big word, many letters. You can just make a ton of typos in there, and you'll never know that you made a typo. Anyway, save, refresh, and boom, I see yellow. This is perfect. This is exactly what you want to do to get going, get this project off the ground. Don't assume that things are working. Don't assume that that style sheet is working perfectly until you literally test it out like this. Let me go to Slack and see if there's any questions. Nope. Looks pretty good. I'm gonna close that. Go back to Best Buy. Yellow. Perfect. Okay, one more thing before I really dive into the layout is to have complete custom control over this layout. One thing that's bothering me right now, not the yellow, it's the space around this content. Okay, the space is coming from browser defaults. The browser assumes you don't want the content to touch the very edge of your mobile device or tablet or desktop. Assumes that CSS is not going to be loaded into this document. So as a fallback option, it's giving it basic styling. And one of those styles is body margin 8px. In Chrome, if I right-click Inspect Element and hover over the body element, body's highlighted, and I come over here to the styles, I can see body display block margin 8px from user agent style sheet. That means it's coming from my browser. Then here comes my style sheet, and it's only bringing in background color yellow. So what I've been encouraging in class is to don't reset everything yourself back to padding 0, margin 0, and all these other things. Utilize a popular CSS file that other nerds and geeks have made, and it's called normalize.css. Open up a new tab and Google search normalize.css. And if I read this literally, it's a modern HTML5 ready alternative to CSS resets. Really, it helps all the elements, all the little pieces that you would use in your website display more consistently by eliminating some of these defaults and giving you more creative control. The only thing I don't like about it, and you're going to notice, I'm going to redo some of this, it adds margin into the H tags, into H1, H2, H3, etc. And I like to eliminate all that so I can put it in there myself. So, but I still use normalize.css. So I just click on download. It shows me all the code for normalize. It didn't download anything. I like to select all, Command A, copy, Command C. And don't paste it into your style sheet. Let's organize it and add it as its own separate CSS file, normalize.css. And paste and save. If I hit save and refresh right now, it doesn't do anything because I've pointed this out in class. Just because you save something in your CSS folder doesn't mean the browser knows to use it. You need to provide it the instructions. So I copy my default style sheet link and paste it in front of it. Normalize comes first and style comes second. The browser reads this from top to bottom. It reads normalize first and it resets everything back to 0. And then it loads in a custom style sheet after that. Don't have it in opposite order because you run the risk of flushing all your work down the proverbial toilet, so to speak. Anyways, now if I hit save and refresh, not hit Chrome, get out of here. Refresh, I can tell it's working because sample content goes right up to the very top left of the screen. And now I have complete custom control. Let me just check Slack. Any questions? If you do have a question, please post on our Slack channel for students. I'll check it every 5-10 minutes. Or someone can jump in and answer the question for me. All right, so just make this out of the way. Open up the PDF. And let's begin. All right, so when you see a design like this, don't get caught up in the details. Don't get caught up in the headlines, the buttons, the red text, the call to actions, the links, if you will. Start examining for regions in the larger pieces of structure. So I see a header, I see main content, and I see a footer. And on the next page of this PDF, I've kind of given you a preview of some of this. Now, I didn't label everything because I want you to start to visualize the blocks, not me giving you the complete answer every single time. So right there, header, main, and footer. Those are HTML5 elements we can use. So if I open up header and say enclose header, I made a typo. You know, see these typos that are happening all the time? Even me, somewhat professional, I still make typos. So VS Code helps you out a lot by giving you the opportunity to just type out the name of the element. That comes the main element. I'm typing out main and hitting tab. I'm saying main content goes here. And then the footer element. Type out footer, hit tab, and say footer stuff goes here. When I hit save and I refresh, nothing sexy happens because the browser doesn't know what to do with these regions, but it is starting to become 1% more structured. Any questions so far? I don't think so. All is quiet. Great. Let's get into the styling part. If you look at the PDF, you can see there's just a few things going on. There's a blue background with some space above, on the left, on the bottom, and on the right. There's some space wrapping around the child content. There's a big image for the main and also some other stuff we'll get into. But right now, I just see a white background with a little bit of padding and a footer element with a little bit of padding. So with that in mind, I can jump right into CSS and say, hey, header, you're going to be background color something, and that something is in the PDF on the last page. The blue is right there, 0046BE. So hashtag 0046BE. And for right now, padding on all 4 sides, 20px. In the future, tomorrow night in class, I'm going to show you how to use REMs, REMs instead of actual pixels. I'll keep it, but for right now, we're keeping it very basic. If I hit save and refresh, I see a blue header with content padded in. I'll also add in color white, and just to see the content pushed in a little bit. Perfect. Here comes the main element. Background color white. Nothing too big or bad. And color black, which is the default color anyways. Save, refresh. There's main. I'm not giving it height. I'm going to let the height grow based on how much content I squeeze into the main element. These are just the basic building blocks getting set up. And here comes the footer. Background color, what's the background color? I think it's C4, C4, C4. C4, C4, C4. And here comes a little bit of padding. Same thing, and color black. I made a typo in the PDF. I didn't really make a typo. I just gave incorrect gray values. Like this is the background color for the footer. But if you put A4, A4, A4 as the foreground, there's not much contrast between that. So let's just stay with black as the font color in the foreground. Save, refresh, and right there, nothing sexy, but what you see is the basic regions being established in this website. So to my point, do not get obsessed. Don't start styling the details right away. Maybe start stylizing the regions first and then slowly get deeper into each region. Questions? No questions, no questions. We're good, 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 good. Okay, back to Best Buy. So, boom, look how beautiful that is. To get back into it, we're going to, I'm going to start from the top and work our way down to the footer. Like the top is going to have the logo inside it. And the images are loaded with the IMG element. But if I type out myself, image source equals something, and alt equals something, I often make typos. So once again, VS Code helps you out by just having you type out the name of the element, and then you can hit tab, and it usually builds out the correct syntax. Okay, image, the source. Hey browser, please go into my images folder and grab best-by-logo.svg. And then the alt text is best by logo. Save, refresh, not working, broken image. Common sense will tell you that I have nothing inside my images folder. I have 0 things inside my images folder. Okay, so in that zip on Google Classroom, I gave you the assets for the Best Buy project back to Careers in Code, Module 1, Best Buy. I'm actually going to trash this empty folder so that I can simply just paste my new folder. And my new folder has all my beautiful little images in it. Look at this, Best Buy, Hottest Deals, MacBook Pro, speakers, TV. Now when I hit save and refresh, I get a gigantic Best Buy logo. I mentioned in class that the browser will start wherever this index file is currently located on your computer. It's going to start looking for an images folder based on wherever this index file is currently located. So my index file is in my Best Buy folder, therefore it starts in the Best Buy folder and then looks for an images subdirectory and this specific file. Now, a couple ways of controlling this image because it's big. It's taking up 100% of the available space, especially when I make the browser bigger. I want to control it. There's a couple ways of controlling it. I can come up here into my CSS document and say, hey, IMG inside my header, you're going to be width 150 px, I'm going to make it smaller, 100 px, height auto. Save, refresh, and it makes it width 100%, and the height auto means release the existing height and let it scale itself down automatically based on its aspect ratio. But okay, so this works, but it's not the best way of controlling image properties, because what if I have other images inside my header? Like right now I don't, but eventually if you look at my PDF, I might have an SVG for the menu icon, an SVG for the shopping cart, potentially have more things. So it's not really good practice to assume that all elements inside a parent is going to be exactly the same. So the best way, in my opinion, to control this is to apply a class attribute to the image so you can talk to it uniquely without affecting other images. So source equals something, alt equals something, class equals something, class equals logo. Now when I jump back to my style sheet, I can say period logo, a class called logo, you're going to be width 100 px, height auto. Save, refresh, and same thing, but it's not contaminating, not affecting other images potentially in the future that may or may not be in my header. Does that make sense? I think so. We just jump back. Any questions on Slack? Please post your questions on the student channel if you have anything. Okay, moving on. Now in class, I didn't show you more about display flex. So I'm not going to show you how to put the menu, the search, and the shopping cart in here right now on this stream. I'll show you in class tomorrow night when you're really ready to learn more about display flex. So let's just keep it logo only on the header. Let's get into the main content. The main content starts with a content group. This image belongs to this headline, 4K TV, starting at $2.99, and the Shop Now button. All three relate to each other. Therefore, in my mind, I should be going into my main content and starting an article element. I should be typing out with VS Code here, article tab. See how simple that is. Inside that's an image. Inside that is an H1 and a button for that call to action, Shop Now. I'm going to go ahead and type in Shop Now. Back to the source, browser, go in the image source, go to my images folder and grab tv.jpg. And alt tag, I don't know exactly what to call this, but Best Buy television. It's kind of generic. You should actually have nice, clean, concise, descriptive alt tags. So that's a little too generic. And then H1, what's the H1? 4K TVs starting at $2.99. Coming back. H1, 4K TVs starting at $299. That's a pretty good price, right? And then a button element with Shop Now. If I hit save and refresh, okay, now we're talking. Now we have a big image, an H1 Shop Now. The image is too big. Look at that. I don't want horizontal scrolling. I want to keep everything on the same screen. Another thing that's bothering me is the padding going around the image. I want that image to be like a big showcase and take up like 100% of that screen of your mobile device, but I still want the text to be pushed in. You can't have it both ways. You can't have padding on the main and have the image ignore it. Okay, technically you can. Technically you can have padding on the main, but you can have negative padding on the image. But when you start mixing up positive padding and negative padding, it gets very hard to keep track of what the hell's going on with each. So I like to be very literal about my values. So I'm going to take away padding out of the main for 1 second. See what happens. Okay, I know the text is touching in the Shop Now, and I still have horizontal scrolling. But I'm going to come back into this article, and I'm going to insert. First of all, I'm going to start with a class on this whole article. This whole article, this big one up top, it's going to be so different than the other ones down below. Therefore, I'm going to apply a special class to this so I can talk uniquely to the showcase article and not any other article down below. But I still need one more div down here, and this div is going to be, I don't have a good name, but I'm going to call it showcase content. And showcase content is going to hold the H1 and the button. It's going to start pushing in the H1 and the button off the edge of this big box. When I hit save and refresh right now, it does nothing. It doesn't know how to handle that. But I can eventually start talking to this uniquely. I can, I might even give the image a class called showcase img, so I can talk to this image and say, hey, image UB with 100% height auto. Showcase content, you're going to have padding 20px applied to you, and then H1 and button, you're going to have your own little typographic properties. All right, so here comes showcase first. Hey showcase, what's so special about you? I don't know, I'm going to give you a special color of aqua. And also margin bottom, I'm going to push everything away from you at the very bottom of the showcase, 40 pixels before anything else comes in. That's about it for showcase. The next one was showcase img. You're going to be width 100%, height auto. And then showcase content, my interior box. You're going to push content in off the edge, 20 pixels. Save, refresh. There we go. Image is now 100% of the space. H1 is doing its thing, or padded in, and Shop Now is padded in. However, okay, one thing that's really bothering me is this H1 actually has some padding and margin from normalize. If I click inspect and look at my H1 and look over here, oh my god, normalize, you're bringing in font size 2 EM and margin 2/3 top and bottom, 0 left and right. That's the only thing I don't like about normalize. It starts putting in, it assumes I just want those typographic properties. So no, I want to reset my own. Fortunately, I do this a lot of projects. Take my basic properties or my basic elements and reset them to padding 0, and more importantly, margin 0. Padding 0 is just optional. Save, refresh, and okay, now I'm back to defaults. I don't mind the font size, but I might control that myself. Okay, if I actually wanted to start talking about the typography, there's a couple ways of stylizing the H1. I like to always declare the parent in front of the type selector, just in case you have other H1s or other H2s, H3s across your entire website. So by declaring the parent first, it helps contain these styles and not contaminate this style with other H1s on your website. And it also keeps everything organized. If you really see all this, it's all bundled together with the showcase prefix, the showcase parent, if you will, almost. Anyways, hey, showcase H1, font family. I didn't show you how to do Google Fonts yet, so I'm not going to do Roboto. I'm going to just stick with Arial. Font size 28px. I think that's what my PDF said. Font size is last page 28px. Yeah. Font weight bold. And a little bit of margin. Margin bottom 10px, so it can push the button away. Perfect. And now the button. There's a couple ways of doing the button. You could, I guess, the simplest way to redo this is this showcase button. Same thing again. I think Arial, or Roboto, if you will, in the future. Font size, can't remember. What's the font size? 18px. Font weight bold. Now, color white, background color Best Buy blue. Best Buy blue is up here, 0046BE. And padding 10px. Oh, and then there's a little gray border going around this thing. That's defaults, and they can be annoying often. So I don't want a border around the button, so I'm going to set the border to 0px. Save, refresh, and looking nice, except the aqua. Any questions? Dana's asking, will this video be available for review and after live showing? I hope so. It's helping me a lot to establish a workflow, or workload, but what type of workflow? Awesome, yes. And AJ, hopefully, yes, this is helping you as well. Definitely ask me questions in this channel if you have anything, but hopefully it's answering questions along the way. Back to Best Buy. Okay, continuing down the main content. If I go back to my PDF, continuing down, page 1, here's an H2, our featured offers, and then article, or offer 1, offer 2, offer 3, and then footer down below. So just by saying that to myself, H2, and then article, I'm going to type this in right into the HTML. H2, tab, our featured offers. Is that what it said? I can't remember. Our featured, yes. Our featured offers, perfect. And then article, offer goes here. I'm going to copy this and paste and paste. Nothing sexy right now. If I refresh, I get some awkward content. Now, a couple things, as you can see already, the H2 is right up against the edge of the browser. The article is right up against the edge. But if I look at my PDF, everything's pushed in a nice 20 pixels on all four sides. Okay, so do I put padding into the articles and the H2? You know what? No, I'm going to wrap one box around this, and I'm going to call this div class main content. And it closes down below. And I tab in my beautiful children, my H2 children. Look at that. So a div that wraps around H2 article, article, article. That one div, the sole purpose of it is to push in the content off the edge. Now, main content isn't a great name for this box. If it really does the pushing, maybe I should call this, maybe I should call this content padding. It's always nice to name your classes after what they actually do or what they have inside them, so that as you see it in your style sheet, you immediately know what it is doing. So in my style sheet, here comes content hyphen padding. The sole purpose of this is to push in on all four sides 20px. Save, refresh. Look at those children, H2 and 3 articles. It's getting pushed in off the edge. Perfect. I'm not going to stylize the H2. I want to jump into the articles down below. The articles. I'm going to focus on one article. And if you do the one article correctly, you're going to see me copy paste it 3 times. So inside the article, let me just prep my mental gears over here. What's in that article? There's a big image and 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of text. All right, so just by saying that, an image. I'm not going to even fill out the values here. I'm not going to fill out the values. I'm just going to leave like that. And then here comes, okay, there's a category. I'm going to call that an H4 category label. And then H3 is going to be offer title. I'll fill out the real title in 1 second. And a P tag about a description. And then another P tag with a link, and actually make this image work. That would help. Images / hottest deals.jpg, and alt tag for right now. Just keep it simple. Hottest deals. Save. Refresh. Ah, hottest deals. Huge. Okay. Not too bad. But in the PDF, I want them to display side by side. Now we just started to get into this in class, between the main column and the side column. Like if you want two boxes to display side by side, you need to give that information to the browser. The browser is going to wait for the special CSS property to make that work correctly. And really, it's the article parent that needs to have display flex on. With display flex on, it'll display the image side by side with the text. There will be one problem though, but you're going to see it. But I'm not going to just say every article. I'm not going to go to my style sheet and say, hey, not footer, hey article, you're going to be display flex. That's going to destroy all articles on my entire page, including the showcase, including down below. Let's not globally style things. Let's once again utilize a class. And I think a good class here is called offer. And eventually I'm going to sprinkle that into all 3 articles, just all reusing the same offer class. And now when I jump into CSS, I can talk directly to the offer. And just to start out with, hey offer, you are going to be display flex. You are going to adapt a flexible layout where things display side by side. Take your children and display them side by side. Save, refresh, and okay, it's kind of working, but look what's happening. Ah! My category label, offer title, and description are all off to the side. What's happening is the article, display flex, is taking all 5 children, the image, and 4 text pieces, and dividing the space from left to right and fitting them all in next to each other. But I don't want that. I want, if you look at my PDF, I want the image to be off to one side and text to be off the next side. So on 2 or 3 pages, I kind of gave you a preview. This is like our article. Here's our image, and here's a box that's going to hold the 4 children pieces. What display flex really does is it affects its immediate children and makes them columns. So what I really need to do is have a div box wrapped around the children. I'm going to call it offer content. Tab in, tab in, tab in, tab, tab, and close that box, offer content. When I hit save and refresh, you're going to notice it's going to work. Well, it's still messy because the image is just taking up the entire space and it's kicking out all the text. But as you can see over here, at least the text is displaying vertical. It is kind of working. You just got to talk to, and then I'm going to lay down a class called offer img. Now what I can do here is talk about offer img width 50% of the available space and height auto, and then offer hyphen content. You're the other child box. You're going to be 50% of the available space, and that's it. Save, refresh, and it's kind of working, kind of not, but it is working. Let's stare at that for a couple seconds. It is dividing the space 50% between the image and 50% between that box. Offer content. That what I've highlighted in blue right now is 50% of the space, just the parent box or the little mini parent box. And then this is like a mini parent, if you will, just the image. And then the parent offer is the display flex. That is doing the subdividing. But there's some adverse effects. It is forcing the image to do something that it's not really designed to do, even though I put height auto, and the text is okay. So through trial and error, just seeing this now tells me that, you know what, I should not be applying display flex to the image itself. Instead, wrap a div box around. I want to do offer image around the image. Let the div box take the styling, the display flex styling, if you will, almost, and let the image just hang out in the middle. Save, refresh. Let me go back. Offer image. The offer image column is 50%. The offer content column is 50%. That should almost work. It's kind of working. The image is still like whoosh, right across, but at least the text is in the right spot. I just got to add in one more style rule. I know this is obnoxious, but for right now, hey, img inside offer image, you need to be 100% of the available space, well, really the 50% space, and you need to be height auto. Scale yourself up to be 100% of your parent space. Your parent is the offer img column, which is trying to be 50% of its parent space. And look what happens. The image is now 100% of its 50% parent. The text is over there and it's 50% box. To finesse this a little bit, I might take the offer image column and do margin right 20px and have that push away. What's really nice about display flex is it first does the pushing of the padding of the margin, that is margin 20, takes that away from the total amount of space available, and then takes that remainder space and distributes 50% for the image column, 50% for the content. So it's like 50-50 plus 20, but if you do the tight math, it's almost like 48% with a 2% with another 50. It's doing maybe 49, 2%, 49, adding it all up to 100%. And look at that little side-by-side action. Look how beautiful that is. I'm not going to do the typography, but you can get into stylizing the H4, the H3, the paragraph, and the link. The fun part is just to be like, oh, wow, great, I got the structure in place. Now I can copy my complete article offer and get rid of my 2 old articles and paste in So then my tabbing gets out of control. Paste in and paste in. Save, refresh, and you should get 4 articles on top of each other. And the last thing I'm going to show you tonight, I'm not going to show you styling the bits of the typography. You can do that with font families and colors and font weights. But I do want to match the display of these little articles down below. Let me just zoom out a little bit. Border dash top. If I look at border dash top gray, border dash top gray, border dash top gray, I think I can add that into our styles. So offer is the article, padding dash top 10px, padding dash bottom 10px, and border dash bottom 1px solid. Let's go get the gray value from the PDF. Let's use the lighter gray, C4, C4, C4. Hashtag C4, C4, C4. Border dash bottom, 1 pixel, solid, gray. You can put any color in there, but let's just use that gray. Save, refresh. Oh, sorry, not border dash bottom. I meant to say border dash top. 1 pixel, solid. There we go. Little space above, little space below, border dash top, border dash top, border dash top. And it's working. This is I know you're not well versed in display flex, but if you can right now understand what I'm doing, generally speaking, and then on your own execute this tonight or tomorrow morning to tomorrow afternoon, or watch me again demo this at the very beginning of class, you're going in the right direction. Notice right now I have yet to touch fonts. I barely touch font. I mean, I touched it up in the showcase. I haven't micromanaged spacing or colors or too much right now. I'm trying to leave it very general, very structural as long as possible. Even silly colors, I still have aqua turned on in the showcase. Eventually I can turn that off. Anyways, when you start to look at these layouts, let me just jump back to my PDF. Don't get obsessed with the little details. Start to visualize this, the structure. These blocks represent elements or regions. And then when you look at my little diagrams, those represent the child elements or child pieces that may or may not go into these areas. Okay. The fun part is this last page is actually applying the real styles, but you don't do any of that fun. Don't do any of that fun styling until you get the structure in place. I'm going to ask for some questions in Slack. You've probably been waiting for me to answer questions along the way. Dana, so we need to know when to use display flex to affect alignment and also when to use a div. This helps. Okay, let me clarify those 2 things. When do you use display flex and when do you not use display flex? The simple answer is, do you want to have content displays side by side? Do you want columns side by side in your layout? Well, then use display flex. If you want them to all just vertically stack, you don't need display flex. Notice I'm not getting too flexy with this overall layout. I want my header up top. I want the main in the middle. I want the footer at the bottom. I don't need to display flex to my body element. And when to use a div? Well, you reach for a div when you don't have an HTML5 element to use. And so far, our HTML5 elements are header, main, aside, and footer. Those are just big regions on our website. We also have little elements like article. Tomorrow night, I'm going to show you another element called section. But basically, you use those for your regions, but whenever you need something extra and you don't have that special element, use a div with a class, preferably with a reusable class. Now, one thing I want to just quickly finish up on, and this is bothering me, is how many times did I tell an image to scale to width 100% height auto? I did it once for my showcase IMG. I told my offer IMG to be down here with 100% height auto. And man, if I keep going and I do other things, other pages of this hypothetical Best Buy website, I'm probably going to say with 100% height auto 1,000 times. When you repeat yourself, this is the perfect time to ask yourself, can I make one class handle that responsive image stuff? And the answer is yes. Instead of calling it showcase IMG, I'm going to call it responsive-IMG. And I'm going to bring this up, and I'm going to put it, but I don't know, up after the body. It's going to be like a utility class. This is going to be used over and over again. Anytime I want to scale an image up to 100% of the available space and scale its height proportionally, I'm going to use responsive IMG. I'm going to come back to my index.html and find where did I use that. I used it in my showcase. Here's showcase IMG. Instead of calling it showcase IMG, I'm going to call it responsive IMG. And then down below in my offers, I'm going to add class equals responsive IMG to every single image here. I'm going to copy the whole image and paste. That way, I don't have to repeat myself about responsive images 1,000 times. Now when I look at my browser, this is a responsive IMG, this is a responsive IMG, and responsive IMG, all being controlled by one beautiful utility class called responsive IMG. Okay, so that's a little bit of refactoring. Sometimes you can't do the refactoring right away as you're coding. Refactoring is a thing that you should do upon reflection, upon looking at your project, upon coming back to it the next day, revisiting it with fresh eyes. You're going to start to notice where you've been redundant and where you can pare things down a little bit. Anyone else have any questions in the Slack channel? Dana, AJ, anyone else? Okay, well, I hope that clarifies a few things, and we'll rock and roll tomorrow night, Monday. We're going to start a new project based on Syracuse.com. We're going to start programming a newsy layout. When I say newsy, I mean we're going to display big showcase articles, smaller articles. We're going to do a flyout menu. We're going to do a single article template. We're going to get into more regions and more little details. And we're going to have some fun. We're going to do some responsive fun as well and get into making it mobile friendly and desktop friendly. Because right now, this Best Buy website is neither. I mean, it's okay, but as soon as you go super big, then everything is just obnoxious. So we got to handle that in the future. I will quickly review this in class tomorrow night, answer any questions. But it's up to you to finish this off. I'm going to zip it up and I'm going to submit it to our Slack channel as well as Google Classroom. And you can always dissect it a little bit more. But like I said, I'm not doing everything. It's up to you to do the typography and some of the extra finishing styles and put in the real content, the real images, the real headlines, etc. Hopefully you learned a few things. Great. I'll see you tomorrow night. I'll be on Slack after this as well.